And whatever the cause, if it's human rights, if it's human progress, then there's justification for the struggle. And our hearts go out to all those in previous generations who've helped build up that struggle, and now we will do our best to ensure that the 500,000 people who live in the London Borough of Barnet will extend cooperation to the Friends of the Iranian Resistance, Friends of Human Rights, and we will do our best to ensure that our part of London plays a progressive role in helping people in human rights and progress. It's living in a democracy, of course, that gives you the right to these elections. And when you don't live in a democracy, you don't have honest elections. I'm reminded that when I went and spoke at the Iranian Convention in Paris 2-3 years ago, the Iranian government sent a diplomat with a Mercedes filled with dynamite to make me welcome in Paris. Well, I'm pleased to say the intelligence forces in Europe apprehended that guy, who was based in Vienna, Austria, and they apprehended him on the Belgian-French border. And he is today in jail in Brussels for 20 years. And that's one nasty man off the streets. But that's what can happen when you don't have democracy, when you don't have human rights, when you don't have fair elections. And one of the key issues facing the Iranian resistance is how to win these basic human rights. I come from the presidency of the Trade Union Congress. We are committed to the conventions of the International Labour Organization, which are all conventions of the United Nations. And the government of Iran is notorious for ignoring, breaking, and every other negative action regarding the rights, the United Nations rights in the International Labour Organization. So our campaigns are consistently to advise the UN of the breaches, to campaign with employers around the world so that if they have influence in Iran or they buy things from Iran, they raise these issues in the negotiations. And we ourselves, in as many ways as we can, extend solidarity to the Iranian workers and their families who suffer so much. And when I say suffer, it's serious. It's not just arbitrary arrests. It's not just torture. It includes executions. Currently, the Iranian teachers are having a dispute for fair wages. And some of their leaders have been seized and have disappeared into the prison system. Their families don't know where they are yet, and we are campaigning to ensure that they are released or given a fair trial. Fair trial is impossible, so they should be released. And that's one of the issues that we're campaigning on, both at the International Labour Organization and through the solidarity mechanisms we have in all the industries where there are international lobbying organizations doing their best. We are concerned about years of neglect of progress and years of human rights abuses in Iran. We are always looking for new ways of solidarity to strengthen our links. I myself have been to Ashraf and have met with people who are struggling to increase the level of the campaigns to ensure change in Iran. There's been a serious deterioration in economic conditions in Iran, and this is causing a lot of reaction from Iranian working people and their families. I mentioned the teachers' action, which involves thousands, tens of thousands, in almost every county in Iran. But the similar actions are being taken in other places too. In the past 12 months, 69 leading union activists have been seized and put in the prison system. These arrests continue, and the campaign against low wages continues. The campaign against non-payment of wages continues. And we are constantly involved in making representations with an unfeeling, uncaring administration. Iran has very, very high inflation. I know some people in this country are worried about the cost of living, worried about inflation. But I can assure you, inflation in Iran leaves our inflation way down the bottom of the graph. It is very, very serious. It undermines people's living standards. It means that wages make less and less contribution to a family's income. And it also means that people are under pressure to work in unsafe conditions. And this is one of the saddest things, that safety incidents grow in Iran because people are forced to work to get any money at all in unsafe working conditions. So it's inflation, it's unsafe working conditions, it's safety, accidents, and thousands of protests. In the past 12 months, there have been 780 strikes. Since 2018, there's been 4,000 labor protests across Iran, including 1,169 strikes. That's why support for our Iranian people and the work of the ILA is so important. It's important to ensure that human rights and human progress remain on the agenda and get promotion in every way possible. The plight of the oppressed workers and their families is something that we should never, ever allow to come off the agenda. We have to keep it there. And I praise the ILA for the work it does in keeping human rights on the agenda. It's true that it's difficult with a tough regime like the Iranians to change their policies, but they are responding at the moment to the campaigns. There have been more responses in their newspapers to the campaigns being undertaken. And I can assure those of you who've been involved in campaigning, you are being listened to. There is a response. It is something worth doing. It is vitally important. It keeps the morale up of those at the coalface of the struggle. The regime's anti-union, anti-ILO, anti-human rights policy is being argued over and being chipped away at. In the past 4 years, the regime has executed per capita more people than any other country in the world. Although China actually executes more people per capita, Iran, unfortunately, executes more per head of population. And that is a very sad record to have. Far better to have an Olympic medal or something you can point to constructively. But when the only award the Iranian regime has is the gold medal for executions, it makes me really, really sick. And I'm sure all of you will campaign to have that changed as soon as possible. Now, we've tried to build trade union organization in Iran, but the regime consistently smashes any organization. That's why they've arrested the teachers' representatives. That's why they arrest bus drivers' representatives. That's why they arrest anybody who looks like they're forming a union anywhere in Iran. They think it's serious for the future of their regime. They think forming a union and campaigning for human rights could be the beginning of the end for them. And they're right. And we will continue to try and organize protests and action on human rights with as much solidarity as we can. I give a commitment that in all the fields I can influence, we will continue to recognize the work of the ILA, we will continue to work with the Iranian resistance, and we will spell out in every way possible in every international organization, including the UK government, which needs to do more, we will spell out the fact that the attitude of the Iranian regime is autocratic in the same way that certain other countries have acted as autocracies. People have a right to freedom in this day and age, and we will campaign to win it.